This is the third video in my Sustainable and Healthy Weight Loss series. I'm doing this series to help you lose weight in a healthy way, to keep it off, and to enjoy life throughout the whole process and beyond. If you missed the first two videos, I encourage you, please go back and watch them. Starting here will not benefit you in the long run. First, let me start today's video with a disclaimer. Number one, if you have a history of disordered eating, tread carefully. There is nothing like trying to lose weight to sort of help flare up those issues. So be sure that you talk to a professional before you jump in. Number two, no matter how healthy the lifestyle changes are, talk to your doctor and make sure that this is right for you. And lastly, the changes that I suggest or that I recommend or I mention because for one, they are sort of globally, universally thought of as good practices. They have worked for me, they've worked for people I know. I know other health coaches offer the same type of advice. It's nothing groundbreaking or different than what we all know, but still listen to your body. You know you better than anybody. If I or anybody else suggests something that doesn't feel right to you, listen to yourself. Let's do a quick review of the homework from the last two videos. Homework number one, I asked you to please track your eating. Track your foods in, like the number of calories consumed. Have a good idea. Do it for a couple of weeks to know where you truly stand, what you are truly eating in your current lifestyle. Very often we underestimate how much we actually eat. So chances are this may have been a little eye-opening. You may have realized maybe some rough spots, like maybe every Friday night you go a little overboard because you're celebrating the end of the week, or maybe at work you get stressed out and you reach for food even when you're not hungry. Or maybe like me, when I did this exercise, I realized how often I just snack either on the things like while I'm cooking dinner, maybe a little snack of this as I'm cutting and chopping, or I just walk through the kitchen and I grab something to eat just because it's there. So maybe you noticed that type of thing as well. I also asked you to track your daily steps and any purposeful exercise to get a good idea of what your current activity level really is. And I suggested if you begin to notice that your activity level is very low, like no purposeful exercise and very few steps during the day, that I asked you to increase that, work on moving more. We really do want to have a decent bit of exercise every day before we start looking at cutting out what we eat. And lastly, I ask that you start weighing yourself every day and enter that number into an app on your phone. I suggested Lose It because that's what I use, but I know there are many other fitness calorie tracking apps. But we want to have a good baseline of where our weight is, not just captured on one high or one low day, but a nice average across the week or 2 weeks or even 3 weeks to figure out what current really is. And then homework two, we sort of reassessed homework one, right? Like how well did we do at capturing our food, at tracking our weight and our exercise? How did we start thinking about what we eat? Did we realize some issues? Did we add more movement? Like what did we unearth in homework one that we sort of worked to sort of correct? And if we didn't correct anything yet, what are we thinking about correcting? And then we discussed your TDEE, your total daily energy expenditure, which I tend to refer to as just maintenance calories. This is like the number of calories you need to eat during the day just to maintain the weight that you're at. We talked about how calculators calculate that differently, so use your best judgment, find something in the middle, and then for the several weeks, eat at that maintenance level, tracking your food, trying to make sure that you aren't going over, just to get a feel of what it would feel like to eat at the level that would keep you right where you are. If you had been eating at like a high level where you were gaining weight pretty rapidly, this might have already felt like a pretty big change in calories. So we want to make sure that we feel comfortable with that before we go any further. And of course, we talked about making sure we're drinking water and getting plenty of sleep and working again on the exercise level, keeping up movement and just daily activity. So here we are now. You've been eating for several weeks, hopefully at that maintenance level. How do you feel? Did you struggle with it? Have you struggled to find like ways to eat that would be like that calorie level but still feel filling? You probably had to play around with your diet a little bit, maybe thinking a little bit more about the meals, being a little more intentional about what you're eating. We did talk about tips and tricks to help with that, like eating high protein, high fiber foods, staying hydrated, that type of thing. How did you do? Were you able to maybe meal prep a little bit or plan out your meals in a way that allowed you to stick to the plan, or did you struggle? If you struggled to eat at maintenance calorie level, then you don't want to move into a calorie deficit yet. You're going to find that even harder. So why try it because you're going to fail? I can tell you right now. You need to be pretty comfortable eating at a maintenance level before you take it further. So if you did struggle, then just stay here for a while longer, a few more weeks at maintenance level while you play around. Maybe Google recipes, look for high fiber, high protein foods, Google low calorie, high protein meals. Come up with a plan and try to figure out how that can work into your life. I promise you there is a way. It can work into everyone's life. You just have to maybe play around with it a little bit. If you are feeling pretty good about eating at maintenance level and you think you're ready to go further, then that's what we shall talk about. Let's start first with sort of assessing how we did with calculating our TDEE, our maintenance level. If you look at your weight that you have been tracking, right, for hopefully a few weeks, you could either maybe graph it if the app you're using allows you to do that, or maybe just take averages from each week to figure out what your weight has been for the last however long it's been that you've been eating at maintenance level. And then notice, did your weight stay pretty steady? I mean, we know it's going to bounce up and down a little bit. It changes. We have variation every day. But if it's up and down, but still maintaining fairly straight, then you know you really are maintaining the weight. And that means your calculation was spot on. We're good. We don't have to worry about it. If you notice that your weight was like slowly creeping up a little bit, then maybe we over-calculated, or maybe the number was a little bit high. So it was allowing you just a few too many calories. And the same goes if you're maybe losing a little bit of weight over the last few weeks, then maybe it was a little bit low, like it calculated low. So I want you to think about that, keeping this in mind. 3,500 calories in a week. That is 1 pound. So if you overeat by 500 calories a day, that brings us to 3,500 calories, you will gain a pound a week. Now, just a reality check. That is pretty easy to do if you're not paying attention to what you're eating. And you can do it even when you think you're being healthy, right? Like just having like a snack that's like an apple and a quarter cup of peanut butter, that can be 500 calories. If you eat yogurt parfaits or smoothies thinking you're being healthy, those are often a lot of calories. So just having like that extra thing in your day amongst like eating like normally could be too much. So even healthy things can cause you to gain weight. So the number of calories are very important. You have to track calories because yes, we want you eating healthy foods, but you can eat healthy foods and still have too many calories, and that means you're going to gain weight. So thinking about that, so 500 calories a day, too much. is a pound a week. 250 calories a day, too much, is going to be a half pound a week. So look at those 3 weeks or however long you ate at maintenance and see like how much do you have to adjust your TDEE for it to be accurate. So if you gained a full pound, that was 3,500 extra calories split out over however many days you're measuring. So figure that out, see how many calories that works out per day. So say it was 3 weeks, that was 21 days. You know you solidly gained a pound for sure, because that's when you're looking at the averages, you can see that, you know, it wasn't just a fluctuation, it was moving up. Then divide 3,500 by 21 and you'll get the number of calories per day that your TDEE was over. Does that make sense? So calculate, do any adjustments to figure out what your TDEE really should be, the maintenance calories that really would keep you steady if you were eating at that level. And then we start talking about a deficit. We want to lose weight very slow and steady. Again, we're not coming in here wanting to like just crash hard on the diet, eat like a bird for a month and then be like, oh yay, I lost 8 pounds, and then go back to our normal habits and just gain it right back, right? You've probably done that before. That's not what we're doing here. We're coming at this from a place of slow and steady, from self-love, from a very caring, nurturing energy, okay? So that does not mean we're going to starve ourselves in order to lose weight. We are going to make a small adjustment now to calories to bring it down just a little bit. Our goal is about a half a pound to a pound per week. We aren't trying to go heavier than that. So it might take a month to lose 2 pounds, and that's okay because it's not going to be painful, right? It's not like you're eating nothing but salad for a month and only losing 2 pounds. You should feel like you're not really suffering much at all. It should feel pretty good, like you're still eating enough to feel pretty full. There are times when you have to make decisions of like this or that. We can't have both, but it shouldn't be an exercise in deprivation. So we're aiming for a half a pound to a pound a week. That's 250 to 500 calories a day less than our TDEE, so less than our maintenance calories. And I know you're probably going to want to just jump to 500. Say, okay, cut 500 off. I want to lose a pound a week. No, we're not going to do that because we want to have room to grow. So if you cut out maybe 250 to 300 calories a day, you'll notice that in your diet, it'll be significant enough that you're going to be like, all right, I can't eat that thing, or I'm going to eat this thing instead today, or I want to eat that tomorrow, so I'm going to cut a little short today. You'll have to think about it a little bit, but still be able to eat the food you love. You're also going to keep exercising and maybe like upping your exercise level a little bit more. So you will be hopefully very firmly in the like 0.75 pounds a week by the time you combine those two together. We want to have room to adjust later when your body tends to want to plateau and like stop. We want to have room to adjust, right? So we want to go as long as possible, eating as much as possible. You don't want to suffer. So figure out, know what our maintenance calories were or should have been. We're going to maybe subtract 300 off of that, and that will be our new calorie budget. And I know I'm repeating myself, but one more time, slow and steady, right? We're not trying to cut off more than we can chew. We're trying to take it easy and slow because we're not just doing this for a couple months to lose the weight and then stop. We're setting ourselves up for how we're going to eat and live in the future, right? Right? Okay. So take what is your correct maintenance level, subtract off maybe 300 calories from that, and update your app so that now your app will tell you that your new budget every day is whatever it is. So let's say your maintenance calorie level is 1950. You're going to shave 300 off of that, which will bring you to a daily calorie intake of 1650. If that feels a little bit low or you struggle with that right off the bat, maybe move it up to 1700 so that you're at like a deficit of 250 first. See how that goes. If that seems really easy, you can always jump back to the 300. You can always go back to 1650. You can adjust that app anytime you want if you think the number isn't accurate. It's not the number you need. Don't go adding a bigger deficit though until you've tried it for a few weeks, because just because you start the deficit, we would like to think our bodies will react immediately and the pounds will stop dropping, but sometimes they don't. Sometimes they're a little slow to react. So you might go 3 weeks and not really see any change, and then all of a sudden notice that, oh, actually you are really down a pound. Like it dropped, you're still fluctuating a little bit, but it's like, you graph it, you can see that it's actually a little bit lower, and then it might drop down a little bit and stay there. So it's not like every day we're going to notice a change in the scale. But when you look at weekly averages, you will begin to see it. Or when you graph it, you will begin to see it. So be patient. Don't make any adjustments until you give it a chance to see what's really happening. I also want to talk a little bit about food noise and emotional eating today, because you may have noticed it as soon as you started tracking calories, even way back at the beginning when we were tracking just what we were normally eating. You may have noticed it when you went down to maintenance calories, especially if that felt like a big drop in calories. And if you didn't, then you are likely to notice it when you go into a calorie deficit, that the food noise just gets a little bit louder. The emotional eating cues get a little bit louder because our focus is much more on food now, right? And a little bit of food noise, a little bit of emotional eating are normal, right? Like, especially if you are the one who plans meals for yourself or for your family, then you are often thinking about, all right, what am I eating today? What's for dinner? What am I packing for lunches tomorrow? Like, food noise is there. We're tending to think about it quite often. You know, you look online and someone's sharing recipes. You're like, ooh, look at that recipe. Right? Like, that's food noise. Just the chatter in the back of your head thinking about food when you're not even hungry, but you're still thinking about food. As soon as you tell yourself that you're watching your calories, and now you're thinking about it all the time because you're logging your food. You're maybe using your log to plan out your food. You're thinking about it a little more intentionally, which just means your food noise is automatically louder. Notice it and decide, is it just normal? Is it just me thinking about like planning, making sure that, you know, I'm planning out my meals, that I'm logging everything correctly? Or does it start to get to be sort of obsessive? Are you instead maybe like searching out recipes, not the healthy recipes, but searching out and just drooling over like rich, fattening, delicious recipes? Or are you thinking about restaurants that you don't plan on going to, but you're looking through their menu just to sort of daydream and think about what they have to offer? If you find you're doing that a lot, that could be a little hint of a problem. So again, you might want to journal about it. You might want to talk to a professional about it. You might even want to back off and come back to maintenance calories for a while if it seems like it's a little too much, if it's taking up too much of your focus. And same with emotional eating. Again, a fair amount of that is normal, right? Coming home on a Friday to have a glass of wine to celebrate the fact that the week is over, maybe an extremely stressful day. You come home and you want a bowl of ice cream and just kind of hang out and chill for a while. Or maybe you're truly like happy and excited about something, so you want something to eat to celebrate. Like, that happens. But again, if it's becoming obsessive, know that it's a problem, reach out or back off. At the end of the last video, I did give you some tips and tricks for cutting calories or eating food that will keep you fuller longer. And I'm going to add to that maybe just sort of a little more information about some of them, maybe a few new ones, again, just to help you sort of manage and figure out what to eat and how to eat so that you feel fulfilled and happy. So the number one, I always say, make sure you stay hydrated. Your body does often confuse hunger and thirst. So sometimes you're thirsty, but your body signals your brain that you're hungry. So you tend to reach for food when really you just needed a glass of water. To expand on that though, don't drink your calories. If you are drinking soda or you're putting a whole lot of sugar and cream in your coffee, if you are drinking a lot of alcoholic beverages, you don't have to cut everything out 100%, but maybe just like do less. If you're used to drinking a couple glasses of wine every evening, maybe change that up so that's just one glass of wine every few days. Maybe if you are drinking a lot of coffee with cream and sugar, maybe just cut down on the cream and sugar or cut down on the number of cups of coffee. Try to focus on drinking water, sparkling water, the sparkling flavored waters if you want, herbal teas. Try to think about hydrating without calories. Limit eating out. Eating out will almost always be more calories, and it's also harder to track. So when you eat at home, it's probably lower calorie foods, and you know exactly what you put into it. When you go out to a restaurant, you really kind of have to guess. And even if you go to a restaurant that tells you how many calories are in a meal, it really depends on who prepared it, right? Like often places have more than one chef, more than one cook, whatever kind of restaurant you're going to, right? More than one person, even just doling it out into the serving sizes. So it's always still pretty much an estimate. So if you are preparing your own food, you know a little bit better. If you do have to go out to eat multiple times a week, try to stick with restaurants that have healthier options. Try to maybe order the healthier options and even peruse the menu. Choose what you're going to eat before you go so that you're not tempted by that delicious sounding special or just get there and get overwhelmed and not know what to choose. So just plan ahead so that you can make good choices. Focus your meals and your snacks around protein and fiber. If you can eat high protein, high fiber foods, it makes you feel fuller longer. You can always turn to Google, my friend Google, for a list. If you just Google high protein foods or high fiber foods, and then just try to make sure that those foods are like in most of your meals, you'll do well here. And I would say be realistic about your macro goals. A lot of people throw out numbers for protein and they are much higher than most people eat regularly. So yes, I do want you to increase your protein level, but do it slow. Same with fiber, do it slow. If you do fiber too fast, it does not do great things for your digestive system. So you want to increase them slowly. And I also encourage you to do it slowly with foods that you like. And I would always say, if given the choice, get your protein and your fiber from actual food versus supplement. Now, that's not to say that in a pinch, you might not turn to a fiber supplement because you're trying to move digestion along, or maybe even your protein just seems really low and you want to get it up a little higher. There are ways and times when you can add maybe a protein shake into your meal plan or protein bars into a snack, but they are also very high in calories, so you do have to sort of weigh the options. Protein shakes and a lot of the bars too, they often use fake sugars, which I'm not a fan of. For one, just because they're fake, but I don't even really like the flavor of them. So use those sparingly and try to stick with real whole food. Incorporate lots of high volume, low calorie food. These are things that have, like, they're filling. There's a lot of bulk to them without all the calories. So think of things like salad, right? Like greens, pretty much any vegetable, actually, any vegetable. Popcorn is a big one. Shrimp actually is a big one. You need a fair amount of shrimp, which is pretty high in protein and pretty filling without a ton of calories. Also egg whites. So if you're doing maybe even like making a quiche, doing some whole eggs, a couple egg whites to kind of round it out. So it's a little bit more egg white than yolk because there are more calories in the yolk and more protein in the whites. So you're actually better off with the whites than the yolks. So it's a win-win. Use your tracker app to plan. I sit down with mine. I don't do it all together necessarily every morning, but I typically in the morning when I'm getting ready to eat my breakfast, before I eat my breakfast, I put in the things that I'm planning to eat. Sometimes I am surprised by the number that comes up, the total calories, and I was like, ooh, okay, that's more than I need. And I take something off. And I'm like, all right, so we're going to eat a couple eggs, piece of toast with an avocado, some fruit. If I decided that that's too many calories, maybe I'll like lessen the fruit or only do one egg. You adjust it to make it fit. Sometimes in the mornings, I will try to do the whole day. This is what I plan to eat for breakfast. This is what I plan to eat for lunch. This is what I plan to eat for dinner. And if I have enough left over, I'm having some chocolate covered almonds and maybe even a glass of wine as an evening snack. If it comes like calories aren't working out, first thing that goes is that glass of wine. And then hopefully I can still get the chocolate covered almonds. I get these cocoa covered almonds from Whole Foods and they're delicious. And which brings me to another point. Never eat anything right out of the container. So whether it's chips or almonds or any sort of cookie or treat, anything that comes in a package, count out what you're going to have, right? Like find out what a serving size is, put it in a separate bowl. And you need to do this anyways, just so that you know how many calories, right, to put. If you just eat out of the bag, you have no idea how much you ate. You're not going to be able to track it accurately. But it also helps us stay on track. So my husband laughs at me almost every evening when I take a little tiny bowl and I count out 15 cocoa covered almonds that I take into the living room to eat as my snack. Because I know 15 is a serving size. I know how many calories that is to put it in my tracker. I also know that if I took the whole bag in with me, I would be very tempted to keep going after those 15 and eat just a few more. Why not? They taste so good. But when I have my bowl and the other ones are all put away, when I hit the end of the bowl, I know I'm done. And I sit there and I am sad about it. And I've listened to, there's a coach that I follow online who talks about this quite a bit, about the sitting with the disappointment of the snack being gone. Just because you can either be sad in the moment, like, yeah, my snack is gone. I'm sad. It was delicious. I would love to continue eating a few more, but I'm fine. Like I feel fine, right? I'm not going to die without them. And I know that if I go get more and I eat them, I'm going to feel bad about myself later. I'm going to feel sad. I'm going to feel bummed, but it's going to be now aimed at me and the bad choice that I made versus just being like, okay, I ate my snack. I enjoyed it. I ate them slow and purposeful and really savored them. And I know I get to have more tomorrow. Ensure your meal planning includes some of your favorite foods. Again, this isn't about deprivation. We want to make sure that the foods we love and enjoy are what we're eating. If you don't like salad, then do not put salad on your meal plan every day. Now, yeah, that means we might not be able to eat our favorite foods all the time, but we should be able to incorporate them enough along with other foods that we like just fine into our meal plan so that we feel happy. We don't feel like we're depriving ourselves of the things we love. I mean, food is meant to be enjoyed, so make sure you are enjoying it. And to keep things simple, come up with just a rotation of a handful of, like, especially breakfast and lunch, high protein, high fiber breakfast and lunch that you can just either make ahead, meal prep, or that you can just rotate through, a quiche for breakfast one day, maybe Greek yogurt and granola with fruit another day, and just rotate back and forth between those two until you come up with another thing that's very simple to add into the rotation. Keep it as simple as possible while giving yourself just enough variety that you don't get bored. And lastly, in the tips and tricks, make sure you are accurately tracking. It is very easy to just say like, oh yeah, that was probably a half a cup. So when I'm scooping out food, I'm often now scooping out, serving food onto my plate with a measuring cup so that I have a realistic view of what quantity I'm using. And most of the time, I'm pretty good because that tends to be how I cook and measure things anyways, that I can eyeball it pretty well. But every once in a while, I'm surprised at either I'm not giving myself enough or I'm giving myself a little too much. Sometimes I weigh things. I have a scale that I use mostly to weigh flour when I'm baking, but I've gotten that out a few times to weigh cheese or to weigh a snack. Like the almonds, I did do a double check because sometimes the nutrition labels are a little bit off. So they say 15 is a serving size, but then they also give the weight in grams. So a couple times I did put like 15 in the bowl and weigh it to see, does that come out? Does that track? And it did, thankfully. But just a reality check every once in a while to make sure that you are measuring, eyeballing things fine, or don't eyeball at all and actually measure. And I know this is a long video, but I want to talk about one more thing before we go, and that is exercise, okay? We've talked about the calorie deficit and how to try to eat and find the food you like and get your meal plan. Let's talk about exercise because we do not want to drop the ball here. If you were sedentary back last homework when we were looking at the TDEE, I asked you to start upping your steps, right? We want to make sure that you're getting at least in that 5,000 range of steps per day so that you aren't considered sedentary. It would be best if those steps are throughout the day, so you're not just doing something at one point of time and then sitting for hours on end. It would be nice if those steps were mixed in through the day. Once you know that you are there, that you're easily, definitely getting 5,000 a day, it's those spread out, you're getting a little bit of exercise throughout the day, so you put yourself at least into the like light exercise level, then I want you to start thinking about this. Before you try to get any more steps at this point, I want you to focus on weight training or resistance training. We want to build muscle, at the very least, not lose muscle, right? We want to maintain muscle or increase it because muscle burns calories. So the more muscle you have, the higher your TDEE actually goes. Like you just burn more calories while you're wandering around living life. And we all know as we age, we lose muscle. So we want to make sure that we are building up muscle, staying strong. It will help us in our weight loss journey. Next, after you make sure you're getting some resistance/strength training, flexibility. You know, I'm a yoga girl. It is important that we are flexible, that we stretch our muscles. You don't have to do full-on yoga classes. Just pick a couple stretches. And if you aren't even sure what stretches, again, turn to Google. Top 4 stretches to do every day. I'm going to guess you're going to want to stretch out your hamstrings and your hips, maybe doing like a forward fold. You can stretch your arms, your chest. Just make sure that you are maintaining flexibility. Flexibility makes us feel young, and it also helps us prevent injury. Like when we're flexible, we're less likely to fall, and if we do fall, we're less likely to hurt ourselves. And then once you get, that minimum level of steps or aerobic activity, you're doing some resistance, some weight training, you're doing some flexibility training, some stretching or yoga, then go in and maybe add more cardio, more steps, more aerobic exercise. You don't have to be crazy. You don't have to be doing like a 30-minute sweating to the oldies every single day, but a few times a week, try to get a decent amount of cardio activity. So we're walking, strength training, then add in some flexibility, and then more cardio is like a bonus, a little like sugar on top. If you are seriously doing some lifting and you're really trying to put on some muscle, try not to do the muscle activities and the high energy cardio necessarily on the same day. Do a couple days here, a couple days there, call it good. We don't want to overdo it, and we don't want to sort of cancel out our rate of progress, but it is important that we keep moving. That is going to help us lose weight as well. So calculate your actual new calorie deficit, your new calorie budget, update your app so that it reflects that. Use some of the tips and tricks to eat at that level for several weeks before we talk again, but there'll be another video soon. As a little reminder, a couple other tips, tricks, all that good stuff. But start trying to eat at that, start eating at that calorie deficit and increase your activity just a little bit more, or at the very least, if you were in that moderate activity level, maintain your activity level and see how it goes. Thank you so much for joining me. I'll talk to you again soon.